Chapter 231. Before Jordan finished speaking, when he heard that David called him, he suddenly had an idea in his heart. Now he needs to pretend to be cowardly in front of David, so that David will be careless, and after he has strength and capital, he will doubly return the humiliation. After asking for the address, Jordan hurried towards the pastoral restaurant. He'll be there soon. Delia returned to her seat and whispered to David. David didn't speak, his expression was indifferent, while Yuanhua looked at David like that, and the corners of his mouth raised. What the H3LL are you pretending to be a big-tailed wolf? Waiting for Mr. Xiao to come, I guess you are going to cry, and you are still dragging. Don't pull. I don't know if I will cry, but you will. David looked at Yuanhua and smiled coldly. What did you say? I will cry. I will make you cry now. Yuanhua said, and picked up the wine bottle again. Yuanhua, are you crazy? Put down the wine bottle for me. Seeing this, Delia was so frightened that she hurriedly yelled at Yuanhua. Delia, what are you afraid of this guy? Even if he learned a few tricks in prison, don't be afraid of him. This is Lord Tiger's territory, and he doesn't dare to do it. In front of the plane, he said with a provocative face, David, aren't you very good? You can break Fu Wei's leg. Now that I am here, do you dare to touch it? Snapped. As soon as Yuanhua finished speaking, David slapped him away. Yuanhua was directly fanned out, both teeth fell out, and half of his face was instantly swollen. After living for so long, this is the first time that I have come over to let me slap. Is this slap comfortable? Do you want to do it again? David looked at Yuanhua with a playful expression. Yuanhua felt that his eyes were shining with gold stars, and the whole person was dizzy. Yuanhua, are you all right? Lu Jiajia hurriedly supported Yuanhua with a nervous expression on her face. Brother Chen, how can you do it? This is a bad thing. Chen Erga looked panicked, a little overwhelmed. David, are you crazy? How can you attack Yuanhua? That's right, you're also a classmate, you actually do it, it's not a thing. Wait, you won't be able to get out of here, you will feel better later. Many classmates criticized David one after another. Bang. David slapped the table suddenly, and a piece of the hard marble table was slapped off. This time, everyone was stunned and closed their mouths. That Yuanhua just came up and asked me to beat him. Are you all blind? David's eyes swept the crowd. No one spoke anymore, and everyone's expressions became very weird. Yes, Yuanhua put it together himself, why do you say David? Delia stood up and helped David to speak. These classmates looked at Delia and were stunned. They really didn't understand which song Delia sang. Yuanhua, who woke up, also frowned slightly, glanced at Delia, and then looked at David angrily. David, you king dare to hit me, I won't let you out of this room today, give it to me wait. Yuanhua said, he was about to slam the door and go to find his cousin. Brother Chen, apologize quickly, or let's go first. Chen Erga pulled David's sleeve and said anxiously. Erga, sit tight, I'll give you a chance today. David smiled slightly towards Chen Erga. Just when Yuanhua slammed the door to go out, the door of the box was suddenly pushed open, and Jordan came over sweating profusely. As soon as Yuanhua saw Jordan, he hurriedly squeezed out a smile and greeted him, Young Master Xiao, you are looking forward to you, please take a seat. With a flattering expression on Yuanhua's face, he asked Jordan to sit down, while the other classmates also got up and greeted them with smiles. But Jordan ignored them, didn't even look at Delia, he glanced directly, and when he saw David, his body shook slightly, and he walked over quickly. Chapter 232. Mr. Chen, I heard that you were looking for me, I'll be right here. Jordan walked up to David and said respectfully. Boom. This time, everyone present except Delia was shocked on the spot, their mouths were round, and their eyes were about to pop out. Brother Xiao's son, to speak with David so respectfully, what's the situation? Shouldn't the two of them be rivals in love? Glancing at the shocked crowd, David sneered and said to Jordan, I heard that your Xiao family has business dealings with him. David pointed to Yuanhua. Jordan glanced at Yuanhua, and then took a closer look at Yuanhua's swollen half-face, guessing something, so he said, Mr. Chen, we have 2 real estate projects, and part of the construction is contracted to this person, but we will terminate the cooperation immediately, and I will send someone to strictly inspect the quality of the project. As long as there is any unqualified place, I will deduct the project payment, and then sue, so that he will bear the loss. David nodded slightly and had to admit that Jordan's reaction ability was quite good. Young Master Xiao, what do you mean? Our cooperation. Our cooperation is terminated, and then the project funds are seized. You also have to bear our losses. Can you understand? Jordan looked at Yuanhua and roared coldly. He was respectful in front of David, but that didn't mean he was respectful to everyone. This. Yuanhua couldn't say a word, his brain really couldn't understand what was going on. Your attitude today saved your life, but not the Xiao family. David got up, patted Jordan on the shoulder and said. David didn't let Jordan go so easily. If he let the Xiao family go, he didn't need to kill Jordan, but the death penalty could be avoided. When Jordan heard this, he knelt down in front of David with a thud, his face extremely pale with fright. Mr. Chen, as long as Mr. Chen can let my Xiao family live, my Xiao family is willing to be a bull and a horse to repay Mr. Chen. In addition, we have 2 real estate companies, all of which are donated to Mr. Chen's name. Jordan said, he actually took out 2 contracts. Seeing this, Jordan was ready before he came, which proves that this guy is not just a dude, he wants to give David a gift, so that David mistakenly thinks that he has surrendered, and there is no threat at all. But there has never been a chance to give gifts to David, and no one wants to take care of this matter. After all, there are 2 big men, Ji Wenchen and Lin Tianyu, behind David. Today is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and of course Jordan will seize it. Looking at the 2 contracts Jordan took out, David was a little surprised. The Xiao family started with real estate, and now they have given both real estate companies to David. I am afraid that the Xiao family's status in Horrendal will plummet. But the dead camel is bigger than the horse, even if it plummets, it is not comparable to ordinary people. Now Xiao Yan and his son don't care about money, they just hope to temporarily save their lives, save the Xiao family, and recharge their energy. David took over the contract. Jordan was overjoyed when he saw David taking over the contract. As long as David could get these 2 companies, the Xiao family would be saved. Since your Xiao family is so sincere, then I will let you go. David took the contract and signed it directly. The reason why David asked for these 2 companies from the Xiao family was that he was too short of money. The 2 bags of medicinal herbs Sonia sent cost several millions. Now even on the top of Pine Mountain, the spiritual energy is very thin. All resources will be exhausted. If David wants to cultivate, there is only one way, that is to buy precious medicinal materials, and then refine the spirit gathering pill to help himself to cultivate. He has to reach the foundation building stage before July 15th. To land on the unnamed island. If you only rely on this thin spiritual energy to cultivate, the year of the monkey and the month of the horse will not be able to reach the foundation building stage. Chapter 233. Thank you Mr. Chen for not killing, thank you Mr. Chen for not killing. Jordan excitedly kowtowed and thanked him again and again. You can go now. David waved his hand indifferently. Jordan got up, bowed to David, turned around and walked out, never looking at Delia from beginning to end. Young Master Xiao, we signed a contract. How can you cancel the cooperation if you cancel it? And the project payment must be paid to me. Yuanhua directly stopped Jordan and said. Go away. Jordan looked impatient. I won't give you a knot, what can you do? Jordan, don't think you're from the Xiao family, I'm afraid of you, look at the way you kneel to David, if you cancel the cooperation, you have to give me the money, my cousin is from Lord Tiger, I really want to make me anxious, I'm not afraid of you at all. Yuanhua was heartbroken and shouted at Jordan. Although he didn't understand why Jordan was afraid of David, he had to get the project money back, otherwise his company wouldn't be able to operate. Although the Xiao family is powerful, compared with Lin Tianyu's reputation, it is still a bit weak, so Yuanhua wants to beat Jordan with Lin Tianyu. Stupid. Jordan gave Yuanhua a disdainful look, then ignored him and left. Lin Tianyu listened to David honestly, and this Yuanhua even held the name of Lin Tianyu to show off his power. Seeing Jordan leave, Yuanhua glared at David with anger on his face. All of this was caused by David. David, although I don't know what method you used to make that coward Jordan fear you, but I'm not afraid of you, I'm going to kill you today. After Yuanhua finished speaking, he went straight out and went to find his cousin. The atmosphere in the box instantly fell into embarrassment, no one said a word, and looked at David one by one, wondering how David had become so awesome, even the elder brother of the Xiao family was afraid of him. Only that Zhang Wenjing looked at Delia with a bit of doubt on her face. Delia, did you break up with that Jordan, isn't it the young mistress of the Xiao family? As soon as Zhang Wenjing said, all the classmates looked at Delia with questioning eyes. Delia's face was flushed with embarrassment. But now that the matter has come, she can't hide it if she wants to, so she can only nod her head. Damn it, I said why did you keep speaking for David just now? It turned out to be kicked by Jordan. Looking at Jordan just now, he definitely won't dare to marry Delia again. It's not the young grandma of the Xiao family, what else are you pretending to be? Seeing Delia admit it, everyone immediately showed great dissatisfaction. If Delia didn't have the identity of the young grandmother of the Xiao family, she would be nothing, and who would curry favor with her? Brother Chen, let's go, you don't know, that Tiger Lord is really powerful, killing people without blinking an eye. Although Chen Erga was shocked that David could make Jordan so afraid of him, but now Yuan Hua went to his cousin, and his cousin was from Lin Tianyu, he was afraid that David would offend Lin Tianyu and be killed by Lin Tianyu. Seeing Chen Erga's scared look, David smiled slightly. Have you seen Lin Tianyu? No. Chen Erga shook his head. Since I haven't seen it before, how do I know that he kills without blinking? David said with a smile. Brother Chen, you've been in prison for a few years, you don't know what's going on outside. The Tiger Lord's Juitong followed Feng Sihai's Chalong gang to kill it fiercely, and more than 20 people died at one time. Almost everyone in the city knows about it. Chen Erga said with horror in his eyes. Don't worry, I'll be fine with me here. David patted Chen Erga's shoulder with a smile, and then threw the 2 transfer contracts in front of Chen Erga. Help me with these 2 companies. Take care of it, I don't have time for myself. Chapter 234. Chen Erga was stunned for a moment. Chen, brother Chen, this can't be done, and I won't manage it either. If you can't learn, who will be born? David shoved the contract into Chen Erga's hands. In the future, if you straighten your back, everyone will call you President Chen. Chen Erga was holding 2 contracts, his hands were shaking, his face was flushed, and his heart was so excited. At this time, he was fantasizing about the scene when others called him President Chen. The other classmates looked at it, their eyes were red, and everyone was dying of envy. The 2 real estate companies have hundreds of millions of assets. In the blink of an eye, Chen Erga has become the CEO of hundreds of millions of companies. Some classmates began to regret it, regretting that they were not as polite to David from the beginning as Chen Erga. If that is the case, maybe they can get some benefits. At this moment, the door of the box was suddenly kicked open, and a young man in a white shirt and a black suit walked in, followed by several security guards. Cousin, this guy hit me, you want to avenge me? Yuan Hua pointed at David and said. Cousin Yuan Hua glanced at David coldly, and then said to Yuan Hua, is it just him? Yuan Hua glanced at a few classmates, who were so frightened that they distanced themselves from David. Chen Erga was also extremely struggling at this time, his legs were shaking with fright, but in the end he still didn't move. And the kid next to him, give it up for me, damn. Yuan Hua became angry when he saw that Chen Erga was still sitting next to David. You're such a FCU king waste, just these 2 monkey-like guys beat you up. Cousin Yuan Hua patted Yuan Hua's head and cursed angrily. Yuan Hua said with a face full of grievances, Cousin, this guy just got out of prison and learned a few tricks, but I can't beat him. Shout. It's still on the road. When Cousin Yuan Hua heard this, the corner of his mouth suddenly raised. Brother, which way is it? Cousin Yuan Hua thought that when David was in prison, he was just messing around in society. Cousin, he's AF. Art. He was his girlfriend and was played by that Jordan. When he got angry, he hit Jordan with a brick and served 3 years in prison. Yuan Hua hurriedly explained to his cousin. I'm stupid. Is there such a thing? Cousin Yuan Hua was taken aback for a moment, and then he laughed. This kid really looks like a bad luck, but if he dares to beat my cousin, it's not a 3-year prison sentence. So easy. After Cousin Yuan Hua finished speaking, he suddenly grabbed a wine bottle and smashed it on David's head. What? When several timid girls saw this, they all screamed. Chen Erga was so frightened that his face turned pale, but seeing that David was about to be smashed, Chen Erga gritted his teeth, stood up and picked up the stool. But before he could take action, he saw David, who had been sitting still, punch him out. Cousin Yuan Hua was punched in the stomach, and the whole person flew upside down. The severe pain made Yuan Hua's cousin hunched over, his face extremely hideous. Cousin, are you all right? Yuan Hua hurriedly supported his cousin and asked. Give it to me, kill him. Cousin Yuan Hua roared, and when several security guards saw this, they rushed up with rubber sticks. Brother Chen, hurry up, I fought with them. Chen Erga carried the stool and went up to greet him. But just when Chen Erga and the security guards were about to strike, a figure flashed by, and then they all fell to the ground, groaning in pain. These people are all Lin Tianyu's subordinates, and they are also his own subordinates, so David did not kill, otherwise, how could these people die? Chapter 235. Looking at the scene in front of them, everyone was dumbfounded, and Yuan Hua was even more stunned. This David is too powerful, how many people can't beat him? Cousin Yuan Hua didn't expect David to be so strong, so he endured the pain and said, go and invite Lord Tiger. Soon, someone went to invite Lin Tianyu. When they heard that Lin Tianyu was coming, all the classmates became nervous. Although it was none of their business, the name of Lin Tianyu also made them tremble with fear. Brother Chen. Chen Urga, who was holding a stool, looked at David and shouted. Urga, are you afraid? David asked with a slight smile. Chen Urga gritted his teeth and shook his head. Since we have come this far, there is nothing to be afraid of. The big deal is to fight for your life. David smiled and said nothing. David, Lord Tiger is coming. You are dead. I will slash you with thousands of pieces. When Yuan Hua heard that he had invited Lin Tianyu, his heart suddenly became excited. I'm waiting. After David finished speaking, he sat back directly with a very calm expression on his face. On the other side, Lin Tianyu was waiting for David on the third floor, but he didn't see David for a long time, and he didn't dare to call again to urge him, so he could only wait. Master Tiger, something happened downstairs. Someone was making trouble in the box and beat Brother Biao. A waiter hurried to a box on the third floor and followed Lin Tianyu. Damn, who dares to come to my restaurant to make trouble? Is it from the Chalong gang? When Lin Tianyu heard this, he immediately stood up and hurried downstairs. I don't know, I heard that the strength is very strong. The waiter replied. Lin Tianyu frowned. If he was very strong, he would obviously come here to make trouble. Now, apart from the Chalong gang, no one dares to make trouble in his territory. Feng Sihai just suffered a loss a few days ago, so it's not that he came to make trouble at this time. Impossible. Soon, Lin Tianyu reached the box on the second floor and kicked the door open. Just as he was about to curse, he saw David sitting at a glance, and then Lin Tianyu was shocked. Master Tiger, he. Cousin Yuan Hua stood up with difficulty, and was about to say something to Lin Tianyu, but saw that Lin Tianyu didn't even look at him, and walked directly towards David. Seeing Lin Tianyu walking towards David, Yuan Hua smiled. David, just wait for Lord Tiger to kill you. As soon as Yuan Hua's voice fell, he saw Lin Tianyu walk up to David and shout respectfully, Mr. Chen. David didn't say a word, just put the teacup down, and Lin Tianyu filled the tea right away. This time, everyone was stunned again, and their shocking eyeballs were about to pop out. Jordan came just now and stood beside David like a servant. Now that Lin Tianyu came, he still had the same attitude. They really don't understand how awesome David is. And that Yuan Hua and his cousin are directly stupid. Tiger, Lord Tiger, who is this gentleman? Cousin Yuan Hua is not stupid, he immediately saw that something was wrong and hurried over. Biaozi, how many years have you been with me? Lin Tianyu did not answer him, but asked aloud. Master Tiger, 5 years. Biaozi's heart trembled and answered stutteringly. 5 years, a long time. Lin Tianyu patted Biaozi's shoulder calmly. This time, that Biaozi was so frightened that he knelt down directly to Lin Tianyu. He had followed Lin Tianyu for 5 years, and he knew that the more calm Lin Tianyu was, the stronger the killing intent. Tiger Lord spare my life, Tiger Lord spare my life. Biaozi kept kowtowing to Lin Tianyu. Lin Tianyu was unmoved, he took out a sharp dagger and threw it on the ground, break your hand. Biaozi looked at the dagger on the ground, and after hesitating for a moment, he picked it up and slashed it with a savage slash. Chapter 236. What? A shrill scream sounded, and Biaozi's left hand was chopped off. Seeing this bloody scene, everyone was shocked, especially that Yuan Hua. Thank you Lord Tiger for not killing him. Biaozi grabbed the broken wrist tightly, endured the severe pain, and followed Lin Tianyu to thank him. Don't thank me, thank you Mr. Chen. Lin Tianyu said coldly. Thank you, Mr. Chen, for not killing. Biaozi knelt down directly to David. Watch, cousin. Yuan Hua looked at his cousin with a bewildered expression, not knowing what to do. You don't give me your FCU king knees yet. Biaozi shouted at Yuan Hua. Yuan Hua knelt down with a thud, and he didn't know who to kneel for. Anyway, he was kneeling on the ground, and he no longer dared to speak with his head down. David got up and walked out of the box. Biaozi, your cousin is rude to Mr. Chen, you can do it yourself. Lin Tianyu followed behind David, looked at Biaozi coldly and said. Master Tiger, I understand. Biaozi nodded again and again. And this woman? David pointed with his hand when he passed by Lu Jiajia. At this time, Lu Jiajia was so scared that her face was pale and her whole body was trembling. Mr. Chen, I understand. Biaozi replied. David glanced at the box again. All those classmates shrank their bodies one by one, and their hearts were full of fear and regret, especially Zhang Wenjing, who was hiding behind others, and his pants were so scared that we wet. In the end, David's eyes fell on Chen Urga, and he smiled at Chen Urga. Gazi, work hard, I believe in your ability, if there is something you can't handle, you can find Lin Tianyu. Lin Tianyu reacted very quickly, and immediately said to Chen Urga, Brother Gazi, if you have something to do, just report my name. Chen Urga was already stunned at this time, and would only keep nodding his head. David and Lin Tianyu left. Biaozi gritted his teeth and let Yuan Hua and Lu Jiajia be dragged out, and soon there were screams outside. Lin Tianyu spoke, Biaozi dared not cheat. At this time, everyone in the box was full of regrets and wanted to slap themselves hard. If they didn't ridicule David at the time and could say a word for David, maybe they could change their lives. Urga is an example. In the box on the 3rd floor, only David and Lin Tianyu are there. During this time, is there any news about Feng Sihai? Didn't you ask for trouble? David asked. Lin Tianyu shook his head. That's not true, his master Shenlong is not so easy to find. Humph. David sneered. Even if it is useless to find his grandfather, Master Guwu is not worth mentioning in my eyes. That's natural, the Hall Master learns immortal art. Lin Tianyu immediately began to flatter him. Okay, don't shoot. David smiled and took out the cohesive pill from his body. I have a pill here. After you eat it, your strength will increase, and then Feng Sihai will not be your opponent. It's gone. When Lin Tianyu found the pill, his face was full of curiosity. This pill was no more than the size of a thumb. Looking at the darkness, it would have such strength. Palace Master, what kind of medicine is this, so powerful? Lin Tianyu asked. This is called Julie pill, don't underestimate it, the medicinal materials used in this pill will be in the millions. It's so expensive. Lin Tianyu was startled, and without hesitating, he ate the gathering pill directly. Soon, Lin Tianyu felt warm and comfortable in his stomach, and there was a heat current running around in his body. At this time, Lin Tianyu suddenly felt that his strength had skyrocketed and he wanted to vent. David also saw what Lin Tianyu meant, and smiled slightly. Do you have a backyard here? You can try it. Yes. Lin Tianyu immediately took David to the backyard. Chapter 237. In the backyard, there is a large stone with a few words carved on it, which Lin Tianyu bought with money. You throw a punch at the stone and see. David pointed at the big stone and said. Without hesitation, Lin Tianyu slammed the stone with a ruthless punch. Click. Under this punch, the stone actually cracked directly from the middle. This. Lin Tianyu looked at his fist, and the whole person was shocked. This fist can crack mountains and rocks, I am afraid it has the power of 1,000 jinns. With one punch now, you can easily kill a cow, so if Feng Sihai's hard qigong is in front of you, it's just a joke. Remember, in front of absolute strength, there's no such thing as hard qigong. David patted Lin Tianyu on the shoulder and said. Lin Tianyu said excitedly, Palace Master, do you have any more? Give me 2 more. Only after I ate 1 gathering pill, the power became so great. If I ate 2 more, would it still be worth it? David rolled his eyes at Lin Tianyu and said, not to mention the medicinal materials needed for this medicinal pill are extremely expensive, and it is difficult to find. In order to refine the medicinal pill, I have spent a lot of spiritual power, and you still want to eat 2 more. When Lin Tianyu heard this, he scratched his head and said with a smile, this medicine pill is really good, if it gets to the market, I'm afraid that thousands of people will want it. You must know that the whole people are now martial arts, and many people want to be able to become the ancients. Martial artist, who does not hesitate to spend a lot of money to consult the master, and buy various auxiliary medicinal materials, the reason why Feng Sihai was able to apprentice to Yi Fengchun, I heard that it cost 200 million. 200 million. David couldn't help being secretly surprised. Just the 2 things that Feng Sihai learned, still need 200 million. Lin Tianyu could instantly break his so-called hard qigong by eating one of his own medicinal pills. Isn't his own medicinal pill worth more than 200 million? David's eyes lit up, as if he had discovered the way of money. Lin Tianyu, if I develop some medicinal herbs, can you sell them? David asked Lin Tianyu. Palace Master, if you refine it, we will eat it well, why should we sell it? If you are short of money, we have a commercial street under the name of Juitong, and we can make a lot of money in a year. Lin Tianyu didn't understand why David would sell such a good medicine pill. If this is bought by an opponent, wouldn't that make trouble for myself? I'm not selling this gathering pill, the medicinal materials needed for this pill are too precious, and it also consumes spiritual power. I refined some simple small rejuvenation pills, which can concentrate and nourish the brain, prolong life, and have an important function. It can make men rejuvenated. David explained to Lin Tianyu, and then asked, how much benefit can that commercial street generate every year? 200 million, but because Juitong also needs a lot of funds to maintain, there are only tens of millions left. Lin Tianyu thought for a while and said. When David heard this, he shook his head slightly. I need a lot of money now to buy medicinal materials, maybe billions, or tens of billions, so relying on your commercial street, you will earn the year of the monkey and the horse. Tens of billions. Lin Tianyu sucked in a breath. Palace Master, why do you need so much money? David didn't hide anything from Lin Tianyu, and said truthfully, I need spiritual energy for cultivation, and even at the top of Pine Mountain, the spiritual energy is too thin, and there is no way to improve my strength, so I need a lot of precious medicinal materials to refine and gather together. Spirit pills can be used to assist cultivation. Oh. Lin Tianyu nodded in understanding but frowned slightly. I'm afraid that even if I give you the entire Su family, I won't be able to collect so much money. What do you mean? Do you see me as a man who spends women's money? David glared. It's not like, how could we, the master of the dragon sect, let a woman keep it? Lin Tianyu hurriedly shook his head. Chapter 238. I'll tell you now that some medicinal materials are ordinary medicinal materials, and they are not expensive. You can buy a batch for me, and I will refine some small repayment pills, and then you can sell them. As for how much you can sell, you will then make up your own mind. After David finished speaking, Lin Tianyu immediately asked someone to bring a pen and paper, ready to record. Shanji, Calla lilies, lychee core, sijiching. David mentioned more than a dozen kinds of materials, but they are all common medicinal materials, which are easy to buy and not expensive. Will you remember? David asked Lin Tianyu after he finished speaking. Palace Master, I have written it down. These are common medicinal materials. Our Horrendal Chinese pharmacy has them, but there is not such a large amount. I will send someone to Yuncheng. There is a medicinal base there. All kinds of medicinal materials are available, and they are also cheap. This will save you a lot of money. Lin Tianyu knew that David needed too much money, so he started to save it, and he didn't dare to be extravagant. Yuncheng. David suddenly remembered that Yuncheng, only a few hundred miles southwest of Horrendal, has the largest medicinal material base in the country. Almost all of the Chinese herbal medicines in the country have been changed hands through Yuncheng and distributed to various places, so over time, Yuncheng has another name Yadu. I don't know if there is any medicine I need. All David needs are very precious medicinal materials, and the mountain ginseng and Ganoderma lucidum needed to refine the spirit gathering pills are not enough for more than 100 years, at least 300 years. You must know that mountain ginseng and Ganoderma lucidum that are more than 300 years old are all in the barren mountains and mountains of uninhabited mountains, so very few can be harvested, and if you want to gather the spirits to exert the maximum effect, you need to blindly use medicinal herbs. That is Tianshan snow lotus. It is even more difficult to get this Tianshan snow lotus, so David can't be in a hurry. He can only accumulate wealth first, and then use high returns to buy these things. After all, there are brave men under the heavy reward. Palace Master, there is an auction house in Yuncheng, which specializes in auctioning rare treasures collected from various places. Among them, there are the most precious medicinal materials. I will send someone to pay attention. If there is anything the Palace Master needs, I will notify you immediately. Lin Tianyu whispered. Well, that's all there is to it. David nodded. He didn't stay in the pastoral restaurant for a long time. After explaining it to Lin Tianyu, David left and went to Su's house. The elixir refined for Reuben is ready, and David will take it for Reuben. Although he has not established any relationship with Sonia, it is already a certainty that Reuben will become his father-in-law. David didn't dare to take things too lightly for his father-in-law. Lin Tianyu personally drove David to the Su family villa. As soon as they arrived at the door of the villa, the two saw a black Audi parked at the door. The license plate was Hong A00001. This license plate number looked very eye-catching. Damn it, isn't this the car of Horrendal's number 1? Why is it here? After seeing the license plate, Lin Tianyu couldn't help but exclaimed. David was also a little puzzled. Why did the top leader of Horrendal come to the Su family? But thinking about how Reuben is also the richest man in Horrendal, it is not impossible for the leader to come over and talk about something. David hesitated for a moment, thinking about whether or not to go in, but finally got out of the car and went in. After this, he is his own husband, so there is no need to be restrained. Besides, getting to know more people like this may be useful when it comes. As soon as he walked into the villa, David saw Sonia and a strange young man in the yard. The two seemed to be talking about something, but seeing Sonia's appearance, he was not very happy. Ling Feng, don't come to my house in the future. If you don't know, you think I have nothing to do with you. Sonia frowned and said to the young man. Chapter 239. Sonia, I just came to see Uncle Su. I heard that he was ill, and I brought him the 1,000-year-old ginseng. I took a lot of effort to get it back from the medicine. Ling Feng said. He actually wanted to grab Sonia's hand. Sonia was so frightened that she hurried back and hid, but Ling Feng didn't seem to want to give up. How did your parents teach you to move around during the day? When David saw this scene, his anger suddenly came up. David. Seeing David coming, Sonia had a happy face and hurriedly ran towards David. When Ling Feng saw Sonia's appearance when he saw David, hostility flashed in his eyes, and he gave David a fierce look. Who are you? Do you know who I am? I don't care who you are, whoever touches my wife, I'll hit whoever. After David finished speaking, he thought about going up to give Ling Feng 2 feet. But Sonia hurriedly grabbed David. Don't do it first, didn't he touch me either? But David's words warmed Sonia's heart. She found that she liked David more and more. Your wife. Ling Feng's eyes widened instantly, his face full of incredulity. It's not my wife, it's your wife, do you want to see the marriage certificate? David looked at Ling Feng with disdain and sneered. Sonia was dumbfounded when she heard it. She didn't know when she got a marriage certificate with David, but after thinking about it, she knew that it was David who was deliberately angry with Ling Feng. Okay, show it to me. Ling Feng stretched out his hand and said. When David heard it, he was slightly taken aback. He didn't expect this guy to really read it. I didn't bring it with me. Besides, why should I show you my wedding photo? David's face was playful, obviously he was teasing Ling Feng. Seeing David like that, Sonia covered her mouth and laughed secretly. Boy, do you know what the consequences of playing with me are? Believe it or not. Before Ling Feng finished speaking, he saw Reuben walking out with a pot of tea, and seeing David there, he was a little surprised. David, you are here too, come and taste me personally. Bilawachun, Zhaofeng, come here too. After Reuben knew that David and Sonia were getting closer and closer, his name was slowly changing, and he started to call him by his first name, so he seemed to be close to David. My dad's Bilawachun is delicious, let's drink it together. Sonia actually walked towards a pavilion in the courtyard with David's arm in front of Ling Feng's face. When Ling Feng saw this scene, his face turned black, but he followed. Several people were sitting in the pavilion. Reuben poured a few cups of tea himself, and then said to Ling Feng with a smile, Xiaofeng, this is David, my illness was cured by him, otherwise I would have gone early. It's down. Uncle Su, isn't this Sonia's husband? Both of them have a marriage certificate. Ling Feng asked Reuben. Husband. Marriage certificate. Reuben was stunned, he didn't know about this at all, and Sonia didn't tell him. Seeing Reuben's expression, Ling Feng smiled coldly, confirming his guess. He just guessed that David was lying to him and deliberately mad at him. He was not married to Sonia at all, nor did he have any marriage certificate. Dad, David is joking. Sonia hurriedly explained to Reuben. Don't look at Reuben's satisfaction with David, but if Sonia dares to secretly get the certificate, Reuben will definitely not agree. You must know that Reuben is a very traditional person. Oh. Reuben's expression softened. Seeing this, Ling Feng looked at David with a cold smile, and gave David a provocative look. Chapter 240. Uncle Su, I heard that you were feeling unwell some time ago. The 1,000-year-old ginseng I specially brought to you from Yuncheng, this kind of thing is hard to come by. I received it from a mountain farmer at a high price. I heard that eating it can prolong life and prevent all diseases. After Ling Feng finished speaking, he took out a very delicate box from his body. The box was wrapped in red cloth and tied with a red rope. The 1,000-year-old ginseng is spiritual. If it is not wrapped in red cloth and tied with red rope, it is very likely to run away. Ling Feng explained and handed the box to Reuben. Zhaofeng, you are so polite. Reuben happily took the box and continued, is your dad busy recently? I always wanted to find a time to sit with him, but I never had the chance. Uncle Su, my dad has been very busy recently. You also know that there is a Hong Kong businessman who wants to invest in Horrendal. My dad accompanies him every day, but I told my dad about the development of the land in the west of Sujiacheng. He has already instructed people to start the approval. After Ling Feng finished speaking, he did not forget to glance at David. He believes that when David hears this, he should know his identity, and he will definitely be counseled. When Reuben heard Ling Feng's words, he immediately laughed happily. Zhaofeng, Uncle Su, thank you very much. If the land west of the Su family city can be developed, Uncle Su will not forget you for this kindness. Uncle Sue is polite, we are all family, what are you polite? When Ling Feng was talking about his family, he deliberately made his tone stronger, and gave David a provocative look. It's just that David didn't look at him at all, his face was calm, and David didn't have the slightest surprise about Ling Feng's identity. Seeing David so calm, Ling Feng felt a little surprised. He was surprised that David still didn't understand his identity. President Sue, David took out the refined medicinal pills and spoke up. But as soon as he opened his mouth, Sonia, who was beside him, gave him a hard twist and glared at David. David woke up suddenly, and hurriedly changed his words. Uncle, the medicinal herbs refined for you have already been made. As long as you eat it, your body will be fine. Reuben took David's medicinal pill, and his excited appearance was even more happy than that of Ling Feng's 1,000-year-old ginseng. After all, Reuben knew David's ability, and the elixir refined by David is not an exaggeration to say that it is an elixir. After taking the medicine pill, Reuben swallowed it directly. Seeing a dark pill that made Reuben happier than his own 1,000-year-old ginseng, Ling Feng was instantly furious. Uncle Sue, a pill that is dark and not slippery won't make you so happy, right? I've eaten ginseng for thousands of years, but it's much better than the pill he didn't know where it came from. Ling Feng said a little unhappily. Just as Reuben was about to open his mouth to explain, he saw David sneer, who knows if you have 1,000-year-old ginseng or grass roots. When Ling Feng heard the words, his face suddenly changed. Boy, what do you mean? I spent more than 1 million to buy ginseng in the past 1,000 years. How could it be grass roots? Just let you know. Hearing what Ling Feng said, David and Sonia burst out laughing. They didn't expect that Ling Feng really believed in the spirituality of 1,000-year-old ginseng and would escape. Moreover, how could 1 million buy 1,000-year-old ginseng? You must know that the 100-year-old ginseng prepared by Sonia, Ganoderma lucidum, etc. cost several million, and the pill refined by David cost more than 1 million. What are you laughing at? Do you think I can't lie? Ling Feng was in a hurry. Ling Feng, you didn't even look at the 1,000-year-old ginseng when you bought it. Did you sell it directly to you? Sonia tried her best to hold back her smile and asked Ling Feng. Chapter 231. Before Jordan finished speaking, when he